The window showed everything. Dr. Teo stood very still, watching the creature inside the big glass room. His body was thin and blue-green like the ocean water on his home planet. His skin had small lines that moved when he felt worried or sad. Right now, those lines were moving a lot. The creature inside was called Jorvac. It was a Kelthian beast. The size of it was hard to understand because humans had nothing to compare it to. If you took the biggest building in any human city and made it alive, it still would not be as big as Jorvac. The creature had a body made of crystal. Before, those crystals were bright purple and violet, like something that fell from the sky and decided to stay alive. Now the purple was gone. Now it was gray, dead gray, the kind of gray that meant nothing good. Dr. Teo had been working at the Kepler station for 12 years. He was good at his job. Everyone said so. The other doctors from different planets and species respected him. They asked him questions. They listened when he talked. But none of that mattered now. None of that could help. The Kelthian beast was dying, and Dr. Teo did not know why. He pressed his thin hand against the cold glass. His fingers were long and had small cups at the ends that could taste the air. The cup fingers shook a little bit. He was scared. The thing that scared him most was not that the beast was sick. It was that no one knew how to make it not sick. 3 days ago, Jorvac had stopped moving. It did not eat. It did not make the sounds it usually made. The bright lights under its skin that glowed like stars had become very, very dim. Dr. Teo had called for help right away. First, he called the other doctors at Kepler Station. They came and looked at the creature. They used their machines. They used their medicine. Nothing worked. Then he called the Galactic Medical Council. They sent doctors from 7 different kinds of people, from 7 different planets, from 7 different ways of thinking about sickness and health. The first group to come were the Xylothian biomancers. They were tall and made of something like water that moved but stayed together. They could see into living things in ways that humans never could. They had machines that showed the very small parts of the body, the parts that were so small you needed special eyes to see them. They looked at Jorvac for a whole day. They looked at everything. They looked at the blood. They looked at the crystals. They looked at the way the body worked inside. Then they told Dr. Teo that they did not know what was wrong. The second group were the Quorith. They were made of crystal too, like Jorvac, but they were much, much smaller and much, much smarter. They understood how crystal things worked because they were crystal themselves. They had worked with Jorvac before. They said they knew what to look for. They spent 3 days inside the containment room, walking on the beast's body, checking every part. They found nothing. No crack in the crystal, no break in the system, no sickness that they could see or understand. The third group were the Vensha healers. These were the ones that everyone talked about in quiet voices. Everyone said they could fix anything. They could heal any sickness. They could even bring people back from almost being dead. They had a kind of medicine that worked through the mind and the feeling and the connection between bodies. It was called telepathic medicine, and it worked in ways that science alone could not explain. The Vensha healers came together, 7 of them. They all put their hands on Jorvac at the same time. Their eyes went white. They made a sound that was like wind and like water at the same time. For an hour, they stayed like that. Dr. Teo watched. He hoped and hoped and hoped that this time it would work. When they took their hands away, one of the Vensha healers spoke. Her voice was soft, like leaves falling. She said, "The body is shutting down. There is something in the body that should not be there. But we cannot see what it is. We cannot feel what it is. It is beyond our help. We are sorry. We have never felt sickness like this before." Dr. Teo's heart went down into his stomach. Over the next 2 days, more doctors came. Scientists came. Experts came. They all looked at Jorvac. They all used their best machines. They all tried their best thinking, and they all said the same thing. We do not know. We cannot help. This is impossible. That word again. Impossible. It kept coming back. It was the word that meant game over. The word that meant you had to stop trying and start saying goodbye. Dr. Teo spent most of his time in the quiet room. The room was next to the room where Jorvac lay. In the quiet room, he sat and he watched the creature breathe. The breathing was very slow now, very shallow. Like the creature was trying to use less and less of its energy because there was not much energy left to use. The Kelthian beasts had been alive for 3,000 years. For 3,000 years they had lived. They had survived things that would kill any other creature. They were like the gods of the animals. The strongest thing alive. The most perfect thing alive. Nothing could hurt them. Nothing could make them sick. Except now something had. Dr. Teo did not know what it was, but he knew that he was going to have to prepare the papers. The papers that said the creature could not be saved. The papers that gave permission to end the pain. The papers that meant death. He was writing these sad papers in his head when the emergency signal came to his office. The sound was loud. The light was red. The message was clear. A human transport had crashed in Sector 7. The ship was falling down. The people inside needed help right away. A medical officer from the human ship was asking to come to Kepler Station. She was hurt. She needed a doctor. Dr. Teo did not pay much attention. There were always problems. There were always people who needed help. That was the job of being a doctor. You helped people. You fixed things. You did your best. He did not know that this human was going to change everything. He did not know that a person from a young planet would teach him something that 3,000 years of science could not teach him. He did not know that his hopeless creature would live. He sent the order to bring the human doctor to Kepler Station, and then he went back to watching Jorvac breathe. Very slowly, very slowly. Almost like the creature was already saying goodbye to the world. The doctor's name was Ji-Won. She was small. She was human. She was very young in the way that humans were young. She did not know that she had been asked to do something impossible. She did not know that every expert in the galaxy had already given up. She was about to arrive at the station in less than 1 hour. She was about to change everything. The medical transport landed in a small cloud of dust and air. Dr. Ji-Won came down the stairs very slowly. Her left arm was hurt bad. It was held in a special field that glowed with blue light. This field kept her arm from moving and kept it safe. Her skin had burns on it. Some of the burns were dark red. Some were brown. Some had white on them, which was the bad kind. The crash had been very hot. The crash had been very bad. The station doctors rushed to her. They were fast and professional. A Quarath doctor with skin like glass took her right arm. A Vensha healer with 5 fingers on each hand took her other side. They spoke in their own language for a moment, and she did not understand any of it. "You are the human," the Quarath doctor said. His voice sounded like ice cracking in winter. "Yes," Ji-Won said. "I am Dr. Ji-Won. My ship crashed. I am sorry for the trouble." The doctors took her inside the station. The halls were long and clean. The walls were white and silver. She had been to space stations before, but never one this big. Everything moved very fast around her. Everything was very serious and very fast. They put her in a medical room. The walls showed pictures of her body on big screens. Her hurt arm was the main picture. They would fix it, they said. The Quarath doctor explained that they would use a synthetic skin. This was skin that was made in their machines. It was not alive, but it worked like skin. It would keep her safe while her real skin grew back underneath. While the doctors prepared the synthetic skin, Ji-Won's eyes kept looking at one of the screens. The screen showed something else. It showed a creature, a very big creature. It was gray. It was very, very big. It had lines that looked like breaks but were probably not breaks. The creature looked like it was sleeping, or like it was not quite alive. "What is that creature?" she asked. Her voice was small and quiet in the big medical room. All the doctors stopped. They looked at each other. The Korath doctor turned to her. He said, "That is not your concern. Your concern is your arm. Your concern is your health. You should rest." But Jiwon was curious. She was the kind of doctor who asked questions. This was why she had come to space in the first place. Humans on Earth said they wanted to learn from the advanced species. They wanted to bring good knowledge back home. But Jiwon had come to space because she liked to know things. She liked to solve things. She liked to understand things. "Please tell me," she said. "I am a doctor. If there is a sick creature, then I want to know. That is what doctors do. We want to help sick things get better." The Vensha healer made a sound like wind. The sound was kind. The Vensha healer spoke to the Korath doctor without moving her lips. They had a quiet conversation that Jiwon could not hear. Then the Vensha healer said, "The creature is called Zorvak. It is a Kelthian beast. It has been sick for 7 days. Many doctors have tried to help. No doctor has been able to help." "How sick?" Jiwon asked. "Very sick," the Vensha healer said. "We do not think it will live. We are preparing to help it go to sleep. It is the kind thing to do. When nothing can help a creature, the kind thing is to let it stop being tired." Jiwon felt something in her chest. She had felt this feeling many times in her life. It was the feeling that said something was not right, that something could be fixed, that someone needed to try harder. They put her hurt arm in the regeneration pod. The pod was warm and soft. It felt like being in warm water. It felt like being held by something that loved her. The synthetic skin was being made for her. Her real skin was growing back underneath. In 3 hours, the damage would be mostly healed. In 3 hours, she would be almost like new. For the first time in 3 hours, she stopped looking at her arm. She looked at the screen. She looked at the big creature called Zorvak. She looked at the numbers and lines that showed what was happening inside the creature's body. The numbers were strange. The temperature went up and down. It did not stay normal. The chemical things in the blood were all wrong. They were different from anything she had seen before. But they were also familiar. They were like a pattern she had seen somewhere before, like a problem she had solved before. She looked very carefully. She looked for a long time. The other doctors walked past her. They had things to do. Zorvak was not their problem anymore. The creature could not be saved. That was the answer that all the smart doctors had given. That was the answer from the best science. That was the answer from the telepathic medicine. But Jiwon kept looking. After 3 hours, her arm was healed. The synthetic skin was on. It felt strange and a little bit cold, but it worked. She could move her arm. She could feel things with her hand. The burns were gone. The damage was gone. "You are well," the Korath doctor said. "You can walk and move and work. You are healthy now." "Thank you," Jiwon said. "Can I see the creature? Can I see Zorvak with my own eyes?" "No," said Dr. Kyosu. He was the security chief of Kepler Station. He was a human like Jiwon, but he had been in space longer. He was big and strong. He looked like he had seen a lot of hard things in his life. He looked like he was the kind of person who said no and meant it. "The Kelthian beast is dangerous," Dr. Kyosu said. "It is sleeping now, but even a sleeping Kelthian beast can hurt you. Its body is like crystal. You could get cut. You could get hurt. You could die. The answer is no." Jiwon understood. She was not a person who fought with the rules. She had come to space to learn and to help. Fighting with the rules did not help. It only made problems. But then Dr. Teo came to the medical room. He was the doctor who took care of Zorvak. He had blue-green skin and long fingers and a sad face. He looked at Ji-won for a long time. He looked at her hurt arm, which was now healed. He looked at her face, which was the face of a person who was thinking about a problem. "You want to see it," Dr. Teo said. It was not a question. "Yes," Ji-won said. "Please. I have a question about what is happening inside the creature. I want to see the screens that show the real numbers. I want to understand." Dr. Teo thought about this. Then he said, "I will show you the observation gallery. You can see through the big glass. You can see the creature. You cannot go inside. You cannot touch anything. But you can look. You can think. If you want to know, you can know." Dr. Kiyosu did not like this. But he did not say no. He was a security chief. But he was also human. And he knew something about the human way of thinking. He knew that humans did not give up easy. He knew that humans wanted to try, even when the answer was probably no. Ji-won went to the observation gallery. Dr. Teo went with her. Through the big glass, she could see Jorvac for the first time. The creature was so big that she could only see part of it. The part she could see was gray and quiet and very, very still. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. Something inside her mind was working. Something was thinking. Something was looking at the numbers and the lines and the pattern, and something was saying, "Yes, yes, I know this. I have seen this before." "I need to see your water system," she said. "What?" Dr. Teo said. "Your water system, the water that goes to the creature, the water that the creature uses. I need to see it. I need to understand how it works. I think I know what is wrong." Dr. Teo looked at her. "You think you know? But we have tested everything. We have looked at everything." "You looked for big, hard problems," Ji-won said. "You looked for things that were complicated. You looked for things that had never been seen before. But maybe the problem is a small thing. Maybe the problem is something that everyone missed because it was too simple." Dr. Teo did something that no other doctor had done. He believed her. He took her to see the water system. And Ji-won's mind found the answer. The water system was inside a big metal room. Pipes ran everywhere. Big pipes and small pipes. Pipes that went up and pipes that went down, pipes that had liquid in them, and the liquid moved like a heartbeat, slow and steady and alive. Ji-won walked around the room slowly. She was looking at the pipes. She was looking at the readings on the screens. She was looking for something that other doctors had missed. Something simple, something that was hiding in plain sight. "What are you looking for?" Dr. Teo asked. He was following her. He wanted to understand. "Poison," Ji-won said. "Simple poison. The kind of poison that accumulates slowly. The kind that does not show up unless you know what to look for." The Korath doctor spoke from the corner. "We have already tested the water. There is no poison." "You tested it for biological poison," Ji-won said. She did not look up from the pipes. "You tested it for the kind of poison that comes from living things. You tested it for the kind of poison that another advanced species would use if they wanted to hurt this creature. But you did not test it for the kind of poison that comes from machines breaking, from systems that get old and dirty and leak." She found it. One of the pipes had a small area where the metal was dark and discolored. It looked like rust. It looked like decay. It looked like a pipe that had been fixed once and was now failing again. "This pipe," she said, pointing. "Tell me what is inside it." Dr. Teo looked at the markings on the pipe. His eyes went very big. "Copper compounds. It carries old cooling liquid. It should not come near the Jorvac water system." "But it does," Ji-won said. "Look, the pipe here is cracked. The cooling liquid is leaking into the water, small amounts. Not enough to see at first, but enough. Every time Jorvac drinks or filters the water through its body, the creature is drinking poison. Copper poison." The Vensha healer came over. "But copper is not poison for most creatures. Copper is sometimes medicine for most creatures. Most creatures do not have a nervous system made of crystal. Ji-won said. She was thinking fast now. She was putting the pieces together. Most creatures do not have a brain that is spread through their entire body. Most creatures have a brain in one place. Zorvak is different. Zorvak is all one thing. The crystal is the brain. The crystal is the body. The crystal is everything. For Zorvak, copper is very bad. Copper interferes with the way crystals work. Copper interferes with the electrical signals that move through the crystal. For months, Zorvak has been getting a little bit of copper every day. A little bit every day. For months. Do you understand? The poison is accumulating. It is building up and building up and building up. And now there is so much that the entire body is shutting down. The doctors looked at each other. The Xylothian biomancer made a sound that was like clicking. The sound meant thinking. The sound meant understanding. Why did we not see this? The biomancer asked. Because you were looking for complicated things, Ji-won said. She sat down on a metal box. She was very tired now. The healing from the crash had used up her energy. The thinking about the problem had used up what was left. We have all been trained the same way. We learned that complicated problems need complicated answers. We learned that if something is impossible, it must be because something very advanced and very strange is happening. But sometimes the answer is not advanced and not strange. Sometimes the answer is just old, just broken, just in need of fixing. She looked at Dr. Teo. I grew up in a big city, she said. Seoul. In Seoul, we have old buildings and old pipes and old systems. All the time, we find that people are getting sick because of poison in the water. Heavy metal poison, lead poison, copper poison, mercury poison. These things build up slowly. They collect in the body slowly. And then one day, the person is very sick, and the doctors have to figure out what happened. I spent 6 years as a doctor in a hospital. I treated people who had drunk bad water. I treated people who had touched old machines. I treated people who had copper in their blood. I learned what to look for. I learned how to see the pattern. Your doctors did not have this experience. Your doctors have lived for thousands of years and seen thousands of sick things. But they have never seen a young species with young machines making old mistakes. That is what I bring. That is what humans bring. We are new. We are young. And because we are young, we see problems that old eyes miss. The Vensha healer put her 5-fingered hand on Ji-won's shoulder. You are very wise for one so young. What must we do? We need to stop the copper from getting to Zorvak, Ji-won said. That is the first thing. We need to repair the pipe. We need to make sure no more copper gets into the water. The second thing is we need to help Zorvak get the copper out of its body. We need to use a treatment called chelation. We have this treatment? Dr. Teo asked. I hope so, Ji-won said. On Earth, we use it all the time. We bind the poison chemically. We make it so the poison cannot hurt anymore. Then the body flushes it out. The creature gets better. But I have never used it on a creature as big as Zorvak. I have never used it on a creature made of crystal. I do not know if it will work. But you think it will work? The Korath doctor asked. Yes, Ji-won said. I think it will work. Not because I am sure, but because I have to try. That is the human way. When the experts say it is impossible, we say maybe it is not impossible. Maybe we just have not found the answer yet. Maybe we just need to try something that has not been tried before. She stood up. She was very tired. Her arm hurt a little bit, even though it was healed. But she stood up anyway. Show me your medical computers, she said. We need to make the chelation agent. We need to make it in a big amount. We need to make it work for a creature as big as a ship. We need to do all of this. And we need to do it now. All the doctors looked at each other. Then they looked at Ji-won. And then they started moving. They started working. They started to believe that maybe, just maybe, the impossible was not so impossible after all. The young human doctor was going to try to save the creature. The old wise doctors of the galaxy were going to help her. And for the first time in a long time, something that seemed impossible was going to be possible. The hunt for a cure had begun. 7 days. That was how long it took to prepare the treatment. 7 days of working without rest. 7 days of sleeping in the lab. 7 days of the same clothes and the same thinking and the same problem over and over again. The first thing they did was repair the pipe. The copper pipe that had been leaking was carefully fixed. A new section was put in. A new seal was made. No more copper would flow into the water system. That was good. But that was only the first step. The hard step was making the medicine. The chelation agent. On Earth it was called HFY. It was a chemical that could grab onto copper atoms and hold them tight. It could make the copper atoms something that the body could flush out. It was medicine that doctors had been using for almost 100 years. It was simple. It was old. It worked. But Jorvac was very, very big. A normal dose of chelation for a human was measured in grams. For Jorvac, they would need kilograms. Not just kilograms, but metric tons. The biggest amount of medicine ever made by the Kepler station. Jiwan worked with the chemists. The Xylothian chemist worked with his machine that could make new chemicals. The Korath chemist worked with his crystal understanding. The Vensha healer worked with her connection to life itself. And Jiwan worked with her human understanding of simple chemistry. They made the chemical. They made it over and over. They made tanks of it. They filled containers with it. They checked every batch to make sure it was perfect. They checked the formula. They checked the strength. They checked the purity. On the 7th day, they were ready. Thousands of liters of chelation agent stored in big containers waiting to be used. Waiting to save a life or waiting to fail completely. But before they gave the medicine, they had to deal with the delivery. How do you give medicine to a creature that is the size of a spaceship? How do you make sure it gets everywhere in the body? How do you make sure it reaches all the copper atoms that have collected over months and months? Jiwan thought about this problem. She thought about the way Jorvac drank. She thought about the way the creature filtered water. She thought about how the water moved through the body. "We go through the water system," she said. "We introduce the chelation agent into the water that the creature drinks. It will flow through the entire body. It will reach everywhere. It will bind to the copper. It will do exactly what we need." "But will it work?" Dr. Teo asked. He had been with her for all 7 days. He had watched her think. He had watched her work. He had started to believe. But belief was not the same as knowing. Belief was not the same as being sure. "I do not know," Jiwan said. She was honest. She was always honest. "I think it will work. On humans, this treatment works almost all the time. On animals, it works almost all the time. On a creature made of crystal that I have never even seen up close before today, I do not know. But we have no other choice. And I think it is better to try and fail than to not try and watch the creature die." They set up the system. The chelation agent was put into a special container that connected to the water system. The flow was controlled by a computer. The amount was measured carefully. Too much would be bad. Too little would not work. It had to be just right. On the night before the treatment, Jiwan went to see Jorvac again. The creature was still mostly gray, still mostly not moving, still mostly not alive. Her heart hurt when she looked at it. "You are going to live," she said to the creature. She knew the creature could not hear her. She knew the creature was probably too far gone to even know she was there. But she said it anyway. She said it to herself. She said it to the universe. She said it to fate or luck or whatever force decided if things would live or die. "You are going to live because I am going to make you live. Because humans are crazy enough to try the impossible. Because we do not know that things cannot work. So we just try anyway. You are going to live." The next morning, they started the treatment. The chelation agent flowed into the water system. It went through the pipes. It reached the creature. It started to do its work. They watched the screens. They watched the computer readings. They watched for anything that might mean it was working or anything that might mean it was not. And then Jorvac convulsed. The creature's entire body shook. The movement was huge. The whole room shook. Alarms went off. Dr. Kiyosu ran in, thinking that the creature was dying. Dr. Teo put his hand up to calm everyone. "Wait," Jiwon said. "This is normal. This is good. The medicine is working. The copper atoms are being grabbed. They are being moved. The body is working to get them out. It is not pleasant for the creature, but it is working." They watched for 2 days. The convulsions continued. The creature's body moved. The readings on the screen changed. The amount of copper in the wastewater increased. The treatment was working. It was actually working. On the 3rd day, something changed. The bioluminescence under the creature's skin. The light that had died weeks ago. The light that had been completely gone. For just a moment, for just a flash, it appeared. A tiny glow. A tiny flutter of light. Like a spark from a fire that had almost gone out. "Did you see that?" the Vensha healer asked. Everyone nodded. Over the next week, the glow got a little bit bigger. The gray skin started to show hints of purple underneath. The creature's breathing, which had been so shallow it was almost nothing, became deeper and more real. On the 14th day, Jorvac's eyes opened. The eyes were huge, bigger than the biggest plates, bigger than the biggest windows. The eyes looked around the room. The eyes looked at the doctors and the screens and the machines. The eyes looked at Jiwon. "Hello," Jiwon said. She was crying a little bit. She was very tired. She had not eaten much. She had not slept much. But she was happy. The creature was alive. The impossible had happened. On the 21st day, Jorvac moved. The big crystal body of the creature uncurled slowly. It moved for the first time in weeks. The light under its skin was bright again. The purple was back. The violet was shining. All the doctors came to watch. All the other people on the station came to watch. They watched the creature that was supposed to die stretch its enormous body. They watched it live. Jiwon stood with Dr. Teo at the window. "You did this," he said. "No," Jiwon said. "We did this. All of us. You believed in me. The others helped me. But more than that, humans did this. We brought something different. We brought the thing that no amount of old knowledge could bring. We brought the belief that the impossible was just the possible in hiding." Dr. Teo smiled. He smiled a real smile. A smile that meant hope. A smile that meant change. A smile that meant the future was different now. The creature was saved. The news spread fast, very fast. Faster than light moving through space, faster than any ship could fly. The news spread through the message systems and the computer networks and the telepathic connections that the advanced species used to talk to each other across the galaxy. A human had done it. A human had solved the problem that had killed all hope. A human from a young species. A human from a planet that had not even been in space for 100 years. A human had come to a dying creature that no one could help, and that human had looked at the problem with fresh eyes. That human had asked simple questions. That human had found simple answers. And that human had saved a life that everyone thought was lost. The Galactic Council called meetings. The medical centers called meetings. The universities and the research stations and the learning centers all called meetings to discuss what had happened. On the 7th day after Jorvac woke up, there was a formal gathering of representatives from all the major species in the galaxy. They came to Kepler Station. They came to see the creature that had been saved. They came to meet the human who had done the saving. Jiwon was very uncomfortable with all the attention. She was not used to being important. She was just a doctor. She just wanted to help people and creatures and things that were sick. She did not want to be famous. But she stood in the big hall with all the representatives. She stood in front of the Xylothian council members. She stood in front of the Quorath scientists. She stood in front of the Vensha healers, and the crystal people, and the telepathic people, and the beings made of electricity, and the beings made of gas. She stood in front of all of them. The oldest representative spoke first. She was called Mother Vensha. She had lived for 10,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had seen technologies develop. She had seen the galaxy change and grow and learn. "You have done something remarkable, young human," Mother Vensha said. Her voice was like wind and like wisdom and like the oldest thing that had ever existed. "You have solved a problem that has defeated the greatest minds in the galaxy. How did you do this?" Jiwon did not want to sound smart or proud. She wanted to sound honest, so she said the true thing. "I did not do this because I was smarter than you. I did this because I was less smart than you. You have studied medicine for thousands of years. You have learned complicated and beautiful things. But you learned to look for complicated and beautiful answers. When the creature was sick, you looked for the kind of sickness that a complicated creature would have. You looked for the kind of medicine that would match the complication. I looked for the simple things. I looked for the things that a younger doctor would look for. Because on my planet, we still have old pipes and old problems. We still have heavy metal poisoning. We still have machines that break and make poisons. We still have simple solutions that we have to use because we do not have advanced medicine yet. So when I looked at this creature, I did not see a unique and impossible problem. I saw a problem that I had seen before. I saw the answer that I had already learned." The representatives made sounds of understanding. They nodded their heads or moved their appendages or made their individual gestures of comprehension. "What you are telling us," said a Korath scientist, "is that sometimes the simplest answer is correct. That sometimes we experts miss things because we are looking too hard for complicated things. This is a hard lesson for us. We have built our power on the idea that we know more because we have lived longer and learned more. You are telling us that being young and new can also be a strength." "Yes," Jiwon said. "On my planet we have a saying. We say that when you ask an old question with an old mind, you get an old answer. When you ask an old question with a new mind, sometimes you get a new answer. That is all I did. I asked an old question. How can we help this sick creature? But I asked it with a new mind, a human mind, a young mind, a mind that had not been trained to see the world in the way that yours had been trained." A long silence happened. Jiwon did not know what it meant. She thought maybe she had said something wrong. She thought maybe she had been too honest. She thought maybe the representatives were going to tell her that she did not understand, and that the universe worked in the way that they had said it worked. Then Mother Vensha began to make a sound. It was not a laugh. It was not a cry. It was like music that had never been heard before. It was like the sound of understanding. It was like the sound of something old and wise deciding to change. All the other representatives began to make sounds, all different kinds of sounds, different from the Vensha healing sounds, but all making the same meaning. They understood. They accepted. They believed. "We will remember this," Mother Vensha said. "We will remember that sometimes we are wrong. We will remember that sometimes the strongest answer comes from the weakest and youngest place. We will remember that humans, in your short time in the galaxy, have brought us something that thousands of years did not bring us. You have brought us the gift of humility. You have taught us that we do not know everything. This is a valuable gift. This is a dangerous gift. But it is a gift that we need." The representatives bowed. They bowed to Jiwon, a human from a young planet who had taught them something that no amount of experience had taught them. In the days that followed, things started to change. The Galactic Medical Council sent a request to Earth. They asked if more human doctors could come to space. They asked if humans would help with problems that seemed impossible. They asked if the young species would work with the old species to find new answers to old problems. Earth said yes. The universities in the galaxy started to teach students something new. They started to teach lateral thinking. They started to teach the idea that expertise was good, but humility was better. They started to teach young species to speak up. They started to teach old species to listen. And hospitals across the galaxy started to look for simple answers when the complicated answers did not work. They started to ask if they were looking too hard. They started to remember that sometimes the cure was not in the advanced technology. Sometimes the cure was in the basic knowledge. Sometimes the cure was in the willingness to try what everyone said was impossible. But the most important change was invisible. It was inside the minds of all the representatives. It was inside the understanding that the universe was bigger than anyone had thought. It was inside the realization that wisdom came from many places, that age did not equal knowledge, that experience did not equal understanding. And it was inside the heart of a young human doctor named G1, who had gone to space to learn, and who had ended up teaching the galaxy something that no amount of time had taught them. That humans were not just young. Humans were different. Humans saw the world through different eyes, and sometimes that made all the difference.